In a world of science fiction and superheroes, welcome to Capes and Phasers.
Hello, welcome back to Capes and Phasers. I'm Trev, he's Gray, I think he's over there. We are almost at the end of Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks. And we are... Okay, this episode wasn't amazing, I must admit.
Yeah.
It's Season 5, Episode 9. It's the first part of a two-parter called Fisher Quest. Gray had to remind me what a Fisher was, so I'm glad he did, because I was like, what? And I was like, oh, yeah, Fishers, I know them. Yeah.
That Fisher.
It wasn't too good. Gray, why were you not a massive fan? Well, I guess it's the same reason as me. Why were you not a massive fan of this?
I mean, the first thing that is we were halfway through the episode, and I was kidding around with you saying that my snore meter was going up slowly. They were all over the freaking place. I mean, they were throwing so much science, made up science, gobbledygook things to explain like everything that was happening in the episode.
It sounded properly made up as well. It didn't even sound like Star Trek. It sounded like someone just thought it up on the spot.
I mean, even if it would have been cool and made sense, you're taking stuff that you would have spread out over, let's say, 10 episodes, right? And used sparingly here and there for good reasons. Instead, it sounds like they had 10 different ways to explain a bunch of crap that was going on. They crammed it all into one episode. You can't possibly keep up. I mean, even towards the end, they were talking so fast, and they were saying that these two and then we're gonna do this and it'll work. And like, what? I mean, there was some redeeming parts to it. The thing I think that makes me a wee bit more angry, or sort of, about this is that they had some really interesting guest stars. I mean, T'Pol is back and Garak's back and and that was pretty neat. I mean, and I'm going like, wow, man, you brought all these people back just to waste them on this episode, you know?
Right.
And that was a shame. That could have been so much better. They could have used it. Now, maybe part 2 will be stellar. I don't know. Man, if it's anything like episode 9, they're going to go out with a whimper, not with a bang, which is a shame. But we'll see.
It's there's a lot to unpack there. So I'll quickly go through what kind of happened in the episode. Because it is all over the place, 100%. They're trying to squeeze in too many stories and made up stuff there, which is kind of a bit mad. They had a great concept. Must admit, the concept was potentially brilliant. So essentially, we look at what's happening with the duplicate version of Boimler, and he's on a Defiant class ship. Not the Defiant. It's got like, I can't remember the name of the ship. It began with an A. It was a random name. It was not. It was probably the worst name of a starship ever. It added to the list of things that they just made up on the spot of names. Yeah. It made no sense. Like if it'd be called the USS Dax or something, that would have been cool, because Dax was on there. It wasn't Jugsy, it was the predecessor, wasn't it?
God, he's track after a while. Well, Curzon's buried down there somewhere, but
it was the one after Curzon, because you always remember Jugsy talking about those two. And she's got some of the Klingon traits because she remembers that. They're all on this Defiant class ship, and they are literally they're going about closing all these different fissures that are caused by something that's opening up realities left, right, and centre, and they can't track down who it is. Right? So they're always closing one, going to the next Boimler. The mirror Boimler, or the alternate version of Boimler, looks so bored and uninterested. He just wants to get back to his own time, but he can't. He's got a ship full of random people. So Garak's back from Deep Space Nine, voiced by Andy Robertson, which is brilliant, because I just told Gray, I've just literally finished listening to the Audible book called A Stitch in Time, which is about Elam Garak from his days in Obsidian Order, even as a kid, all the way up to Deep Space Nine. And Andy Robinson's brilliant. He's one of my favourite characters, Garak, on Deep Space Nine. And you also had Dr. Julian Bashir back, played by Alexander Siddig. Now, we weren't sure that was actually him at the start because people's voice can change a bit over time, but it is him. We checked on IMDb, it is him. You also have Jolene Blaylock, who played T'Pol. And I remember back then at the day, I mean, that was the hottest Vulcan you're ever going to see, man. Wow. And I'm surprised why Gray didn't watch Enterprise more, if not for that reason.
Well, to tell you the truth, with the exception of a couple things, like maybe Strange New Worlds or whatever, I might go back and watch Enterprise for one reason only, because there's
two reasons, Gray.
Well, yeah, that too, but then the third reason would be the third reason would be that there's so much garbage Trek out there that even
That
Enterprise is looking good.
Yeah.
I mean, remember for years they were going like Enterprise was weak and it got better in its third and fourth season, but it was too late and la 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 la. And then when they started the new Trek, it's like, wow, the Enterprise is looking real good now.
Towards the end of it, they were doing two-parters that were like phenomenal. Like they were doing a eugenics wars, and they were doing just one-off two-parters, and it was just it was so good at the end. And yeah, it's too little, too late. That's all I can say there. We had more guest stars as well. We had Harry Kim was back, Garrett Wang,
Harry Kims,
which is great. So many Harrys, man. They would have like these random characters on the ship, and Julian Bashir is a hologram in this, and Garrick is a surgeon, and they're in a relationship, those two. Now, I'm not really surprised by that because they got on really well. Like you could tell Garrick, you could tell without it being said that he kind of had a thing for Bashir back in Deep Space Nine, like more than a friend. But Bashir he had a thing for the ladies, so it was never really going to work. But in this alternate reality type thing, anything goes. And this is maybe why, Gray, the episode ends up being batshit crazy just by its nature. The thing with the Kims is a bit, it's humour. It's kind of humour more than anything else. It was just put in there to make it not as serious as it maybe ended. It could have ended up being at when you look at the end of the episode, because that was probably the funniest element for me. Did you like at least the guest characters coming back, Gray? Was that? I'm sure that's something. That's a positive to take from it.
Probably, like I mentioned before, the only positive. It's nice seeing them back. It's just that it's nice to see them back and then see them wasted on a story that was all over the place and kind of boring was a shame, because I could have thought of much better. I think trying to the base, if we hadn't said it already, the basis for the program or the episode is that they're going through quantum reality bubbles, as they call them, and supposedly, they're doing the same old multiverse stuff again, which is really getting old. And they're going like, well, there's a million different quantum universes, and we're here to, every time we one gets exposed, we have to close up the rift, and then we open another one, and then we have to close that one, and we open another one, we have to close that. So they said that their ship, or Captain Boimler's ship, was made up of people that they peeled off of all these other universes. So they took several Harry Kims, which was funny, from different universes and stuff. But I also think that was the downfall of the episode, because there were so many different universes that everything was being explained haphazardly and so fast, and the whole episode seemed extremely rushed.
It was.
It wasn't even funny. That's how bad it was. It was almost like everything's running fast forward times 3, and you're just going like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was extremely rushed, and it was the nature of the type of episode, like the actual the idea of the episode being different realities meant it was going to be batshit crazy, and it's really difficult to do those episodes. Essentially, because it's all over the place, it's actually hard to give you a proper kind of quick idea, like run through of the episode. But essentially, they do run into some kind of an OP person, if you like, from Star Trek folklore. The character Lily Sloan, if you remember her, played by Alfred Woodard. and that was the lady from Star Trek First Contact. I've seen her in quite a few things. She's the one that says that the Borg sounds Swedish and couldn't believe how much titanium was all over and other metals were all over the Enterprise E. She was complaining it took her like 6 months to get all this titanium together for her little tiny cockpit of the Phoenix and whatnot. So she was there on the ship called the Beagle, which is a nod to Archer in the Enterprise because his dog is a beagle. So there's lots of nods there. Obviously, Jolene Blaylock being another nod to that. And it had the suits. They had the jumpsuits from Enterprise. They had the sound effects as well. Gray, you probably maybe noticed one or two of those sound effects there. I like the nods when they do the nods to other Trek properly, not for the sake of it. And I think that's where they went wrong in this episode. Well, let's grab him from this episode, or that person from that series, and that person from that series, and it turned into this mess of a suit.
Yeah.
So you're struggling to keep up, if you know what I mean. Essentially, we've got to talk about the positives as well. So the whole Harry Kim thing, there's loads of Harry Kims. One Harry Kim walks in, he's got 2 pips on, and all the other Harry Kims go, wait a minute, you've got 2 pips, everyone else has got 1 pip on there. You get promoted, really? No one could believe it, man. No one could believe that this happened. So essentially, they end up being, the Harry Kim with the 2 pips ends up being like at least the initial big bad of the episode, because he steals the ship, the Beagle, after it ends up crash landing on a nearby planet, and he makes a break for it. And he takes all the Kims with him. It's just a ship full of Kims, and you're just like, what?
It was so much to digest, and it was almost like what they say about trying to take a fire hose and shoot it through a straw. I mean, it was just like, no.
Yeah. That sounds
crazy.
about right, man. You'd probably.
By the way, the Beagle. Just a quick note: the Beagle design of the ship was the design straight from the old Enterprise.
Oh yeah.
That had the big ring around the main body ship that goes through the ring. And also, if you watch Unification, in a scene in Unification is that ship, the old Enterprise in one quick scene. So that was kind of interesting that they used that design.
I'm kind of glad that they used that design now and they didn't use it back in the original TOS days, because that's the stereotypical type of sci-fi ship that people use. Yeah. When you see the ring and you see the solar panels, I'm like, what? There's a starship with solar panels on it. Get a grip. Even the Phoenix didn't have solar panels on it, man. Get a grip. So I'm glad they didn't use that and they brought it back now. That's the right way to do that, I think. I'm sure they've done well with Enterprise, to be fair. So, so this episode being all over the place with like a couple of different plots. They were jumping from A to B to C in a random manner and pattern. It didn't really have a proper solid plot A, to be honest with you. They were just trying to cover up. They were trying to cover up the cracks with just Kims, basically. Almost like Kims are like the plaster you're putting in the cracks in your wall just to make things a lot better. But I mean,
you can make a batshit crazy show, because there are shows out there, and I can name a bunch of them that are a couple that are batshit crazy, but they're still good. You know what's going on. It's very, very difficult to make a batshit crazy show make sense. And I think they had no clue on this episode how to do that. Absolutely zero. Because it just didn't.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing with Lower Decks. It's got a license to go a bit more bonkers for Star Trek, but it usually does it well, and it usually manages to make everything make sense. I mean, crying out loud, the Boimler Mariner went to the live action universe in Strange New Worlds, and they made that make sense. So, I mean, come on, if you can make that make sense, you should be able to make something with different realities a lot of sense. It had so much potential with this episode.
Right,
a crew of misfits on a Defiant class ship with nods from all different kinds of Trek. Why? So disappointing, man. It just left. I'm not going to beat around the bush, Gray. I'm just going to call this a. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. I'd even be tempted to go lower, but I would say 5. And the only reason I think it even gets to a 5 is because of the guest stars.
They saved it from going from a 3 and 4 or something.
Oh God, if it wasn't for the guest stars, definitely like a 3.
Yeah,
I mean, no doubt. I hope part 2 is better, but boy, this whole setup on part 1 was like, it was so bad. It's like I don't even care about part 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be much worse than that. So I'd imagine the second part will be better, but it's a shame because they've done so well this season. We've not given anything. I think there's one episode we maybe gave it a 6.
Yeah, we had one episode. Right.
But then it's been like a 7, 8s, and 9s.
Yeah.
For the most part. So, this brings the average down a little bit, which is a shame. But, let's see. We're one more episode to go next week. And then what we'll probably do is we don't know when we're getting more Trek again. It will probably be, in fact, we do. It'll be section 31. But
right. That's
was there a date for that in January?
Yeah, January 30th, I think.
Yeah.
I remember it's near the end of the month there.
What we may do then is do part 2 next week and then take a little break until then because there's a lot of stuff going on both for Lice at the moment and come back for that and then try and ramp up more content after that. Because we are Capes and Phasers now, so Star Trek's our main show and our baby.
Yeah. We got sci-fi, we got a lot of things rocking and rolling in the superheroes, good and bad.
And what we'll probably do, I said to Gray as well, is probably once a month we might try and do what Gray used to do in his show in the past on Gray's Green Room and try and just incorporate something like that into this. His was more entertainment based, so we'll try and narrow it down to maybe just sci-fi shows and superhero type shows and put it into a kind of mini episode and just do a little rant and rave and what's going on in the sci-fi and superhero world, as well as doing reviews and opinion pieces and stuff. So yeah, any ideas or stuff you want to see relating around that kind of genre, let us know. Gray, this episode made me sad, so I kind of don't want to talk about it anymore. Just call it there and say it's not an amazing episode. Hopefully next week's better.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll wrap up there. Thank you for your patience, people. If you haven't already, please come and join our Discord, discord.gg/Extreme Gaming Podcast, because yes, first and foremost, we are a gaming podcast and we have a YouTube channel and all that around that. But we do have a room in there to talk about sci-fi superhero type content, also called Capes and Phasers. Yeah. Stop by, say hello, say how you found us. That would be great. And until next week, say goodbye to the people, please, Mr.
Long and prosper, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.